All right, people. Today we're going to be talking about the blockchain and real estate. And I want to see if we can figure out if blockchain is going to basically turn real estate on its head. Is this something that can, help the real estate industry go faster, be cheaper, and ultimately just make a whole lot more people a whole lot more money? Welcome to Jerome in Real Estate. I'm Jerome, your local realtor here in the Fountain and Colorado Springs area. Today, we're going to be discussing blockchain and real estate. So, first, it's important to kind of make sure we have a little bit of an understanding of what the blockchain is, right? I'm not sure, not too many people have heard of cryptocurrencies. Maybe you've heard of it, but you don't really know what it is. The blockchain is one of the underpinnings behind cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, right? But you do really need to think of it as something separate, because they're not the exact same thing. Just because blockchain underpins most of what we think of when we think of cryptocurrency doesn't mean that they're used interchangeably, right? So I'm going to be talking about it as it relates to the real estate industry. And basically what blockchain is, okay, you can think of it as a simple way of thinking about how information is stored and shared, right? And it's basically like maintaining a growing list of records and transactions, right? So for instance, let's say that I own something, right? And then I decide to sell it to someone. Let's say this is the record right now. It's just two pieces, right? When that person sells it to someone else, then it's three pieces. And it just keeps on going and going and going. And this is the record that we have, okay? Now, traditionally speaking, the record would only be held by either one person, one company, one organization or something like that. And then you would need to find out anything about that record. You either go to that person or company, pay them, they dig it up, they tell you whatever information you need to know about that record, and that's how it's done, right? That's traditional. What we're talking about now is a way of everyone being able to see all those records and transactions, okay? Now, blockchain doesn't mean that everyone's going to have the record, but it does mean that you need to have a network of computers that are going to be recording those transactions. Like the full transaction is going to be on every single one of those computers that are in that network, and it could be widely distributed, completely public, or it could be private. Which is what some companies are doing with their blockchains, right? It's just a private network of computers. But when you talk about cryptocurrency, mainly, especially Bitcoin, that one is completely open to everyone in the public, right? And that's where a lot of the strength of Bitcoin comes from. But bringing it back to real estate, if we're just talking about how it could impact the real estate industry, you need to think about a wide network of computers. Let's just take the county, for instance, right? So there would be a county and a network of computers in the county, right, that are all recording transactions for certain properties in the county. And it would be instantly available to whoever has access to those particular computers, that computer network, right? So it would be independent. It would be verified. Well, it may not be independent, but it would be verifiable, and it would be trustworthy as a record of transactions. Okay, so that's one of the huge pluses that we're talking about here. And now I kind of want to get into what sort of opportunities does this impart to the real estate industry. Let's start off with title. Okay, I think this is probably the easiest one to sort of understand. Okay, now currently, when you are about to do a property transaction, let's say you're buying or you're selling, right? Usually one of the first things that happens is you try to ensure that the seller of that property is actually the owner of the property, right? And then there's no other encumbrances on that particular property, right? So what you do is you go to title and you ask them to run a title search, okay? And then they take a few days, or it could be longer, and then they come back and they say, okay, yeah, this person is truly the owner and there are no other encumbrances. Nobody else can, move in and say that they own the property as well, or a piece of the property. Or they get back to you and they say, you know what, there are encumbrances, there's problems, blah, 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 that you need to work through. Okay. Now imagine if you didn't need to go to title and have them search and have it take days or weeks. And maybe let's say it is a private blockchain. Let's say you just go to them and in 2 to 3 minutes, they can tell you, yeah, it's all good. This is the only owner, no encumbrances, that's it, right? I'm not even sure if we would call that a title search anymore because it's just immediately available, right? This is one of the impacts that it would have. How much cheaper, how much faster could you make that process, and how much time could you take off of a property transaction just by that one opportunity alone, right? That's a big deal in my eyes. Fractional ownership. That's something also that we need to consider. And when I say fractional ownership, once again, I'm talking about in real estate, in the industry of real estate, right? Currently, it's a little bit difficult for many people to own a piece of the same property. There are certain ways that you can do it right now, but they're a little bit complicated. If you're thinking about your REIT, your real estate investment trust, that's not quite the same as actually having ownership, but you're on the right track there. But there are some other people that are trying to get into this, such as I know Jeff Bezos is he did create a program where lots of people can own equity in a certain property. But imagine if we went the route of blockchain with this, and you could very quickly and instantaneously know, hey, these 2,000 people own this certain amount of equity in this particular property, right? That could be something that is game changing. You would open up property ownership for a whole lot more people for a lot less price, but at the same time, they still own some of the property. And if it's a rental property, if you're considering it to be an investment property where money's coming in, the money would easily be distributed to, let's say it's 2,000 people that own this one property. It would be distributed equitably to those 2,000 people, and it could be done completely digitally, right, through the blockchain. So this is something that we definitely need to think about. Here's the next thing, right? And I'm sure everyone's heard of it. NFTs, right? This is non-fungible tokens. Usually when you hear the word NFT nowadays, or you hear the term NFT now, you think, well, it's one of those mutant apes, right? It's just on the computer, and for some reason they're going for like millions of dollars and stuff like that. And it's not physical, it's nothing in reality, it's just digital. Why is anybody paying for this? This is ridiculous, all right? I have a whole different perspective, but just focusing on real estate, let me bring it back to how this might impact the real estate industry. Imagine if an NFT could represent property in the physical world, right? So if I've got a home and I just bought it, right? Let's suppose that an NFT in the digital world was transferred to me along with the physical property that I have, right? So therefore, it kind of becomes, my title or deed, right? That NFT does, and it's immediate, verifiable proof that I can show to someone and say, look, see that? That means I own this particular property, and they could immediately look at it and just know. There's no need to go through the whole title stuff or searching in county records and all that kind of jazz. It is just immediately recognizable and verifiable that I own it due to the fact that I'm the one that has the NFT. Okay, so without going into all the details of it, that's what that would mean for the real estate industry, just that one little piece. And then the last thing to discuss is decentralized finance, right? Think about all the different ways that you try to get liquidity out of real estate, with your refinances and going to a bank or a lender and, trying to do a HELOC or, whatever, all those types of things, okay? With decentralized finance, and I'm not going to, go 100% in depth on this here. I'm just skimming the surface. But if you do a search on decentralized finance, also known as DeFi, you'll start to understand that the decentralized nature of it, once again, think, tons of computers in a network. Think in that way, right? Instead of just one lender that controls everything centralized, think about finance, which is completely decentralized throughout a whole network of people that are all lenders and borrowers themselves, and they can sort of pool money that way, right? Think about how much easier it would be then to lend, to borrow, to do a refinance, to access the liquidity out of your property, which is usually just locked up, right? Usually when you buy a property and you want to get some money out of it, usually you're selling that property, right? Or you're going back to that lender and you're saying, okay, well, I want to do a refinance, and we got to go through this whole title process and the whole shebang all over again. Imagine how much easier it could be with decentralized finance, right? And I know all I'm doing is just surface level stuff right now, but I think I will go a little bit deeper into blockchain and cryptocurrencies. That way we can understand how this could truly impact the real estate industry. And look, the way I see it, the real estate industry, has a couple more years before this completely upends the way that we transact. And if you think that we're far off, I think you're wrong. It's simple as that. We're not that far off. There have been test cases already where properties have been transferred on the blockchain. One of the reasons that I decided to do this video is because I read an article in a magazine called Commercial Connections. The author of it was David Conroy. I guess he's the director of emerging technology in the National Association of Realtors. It's a print magazine, so I'll be able to show you guys a scan of it. But he wrote up this article because he also believes that this is where the industry is going, and we need to open our eyes and start taking advantage of some of the opportunities that are out there. All right, but that's it. I hope you liked this particular video. If you like the content, please give me a like, give me a subscribe, and I'll see you next time.